All right. Hello, everyone. This is a first time for me, which I'm very excited about. So, hi there. I'm Max, also known as Pathwalker on YouTube, and I'm going to be doing my first interview with a very special guest. This is honestly the first time that I've ever had anybody else in my videos, so it's new to me, but I'm very excited about it, very ready for this. This is actually my therapist that I have known for many years now, and it's quite a. They've known me over the course of the years for not just a portion of the years, but throughout a big part of the last, I'd say 2, 3 years, and so they know a lot about me, my life, everything that's been going on, especially with this channel and everything. So this is quite someone who is very accustomed to what I've been doing, and I feel like they are a great, just provider of what's going to happen, in this video. All the topics we're going to be covering, which are all centered around self-improvement, which is obviously the main subject of my videos. And so feel free to introduce yourself.
Oh, hi Max. I'm truly so excited and so honored to be here together today, this time in a different kind of conversation. Therapy itself, it's at the end of the day, it's a conversation, it's a dialogue. And now in this new context, and I have to say that yes, I have been having the privilege to be the witness for a while to your path, to your beautiful personal growth journey. And one thing that I mentioned to you before, and I want to mention it today as well, is how truly impressed I am and inspired, not just impressed, but inspired by you and the way you have been taking your own journey and having this genuine sincerity and openness to be raw, to share it with others from a very real point, not just what we know and what we read and then getting into all of these theories that we are so good at making, but you are carving your way, you are walking your path, and this is the most inspiring, powerful way to touch others as well. So you've been doing this. I've been again witnessing from the inside your what you've been sharing with me in our conversations. At the same time, knowing your channel and your courage, your openness, your again, is that feeling of being so real, no pretend, no makeup, no cover up, no stories, just straightforward sharing from what you are being and becoming. So today I'm really happy to be together. Yes, hello everyone. I'm Sophia Barna. I'm a psychotherapist here in Toronto, and I have the privileges I'm a big reader, so I have the privilege of having the chance to witness and to read other people's inner books, and at the same time to be part of that space, inner space with them, where the field is opening up and shifts are happening, and transformations and healing is happening. And often it's quite magical, and I'm very truly humbled to have the chance to be part of this process in my work. So thank you for inviting me today, Max, and I'm really excited to have this conversation together today.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. Real quick, if you don't mind sharing, uh, what is your overall experience in the therapy field? Like how many years, et cetera, just so that people might have an idea.
So I do have over 30 years of clinical experience. That doesn't make me old necessarily, by the way. So so just to set things straight. But psychology, psychotherapy has been my first love, my first passion in my life since high school, and from then on. So originally I was a psychologist in Romania, and then I moved to Canada, And here I had to start my journey again, the journey of self-improvement and the professional improvement as well. So I had to do two master programs at UFT, and then having the chance to come on board again with the deep work, the clinical work. So I've been doing that for a while now. For almost 20 years, I've been working and being recharged again and again, working with young people, with college and university students. And everybody has different expertises. So I'm not a general psychotherapist, but I have two main expertises that are connected with one another. So one is trauma treatment, trauma in the large sense, where it's about everything that is happening and we are struggling with in the present that connects with some past negative experiences that haven't had a chance to be fully healed, resolved, and taken out of the way. And they stay, they create these blockages and patterns that we get stuck in them. And this is actually affecting our path in life. The next expertise is that I have is optimal performance and performance enhancement. So performance in the large sense, meaning whatever it is that we want to take on and accept, say yes to that challenge between us and ourselves and us and life, and allow ourselves again, first of all, to remove the blockages that stay in the way and that often come from the past and whatever it's been written in there in those old programs that often they have been downloaded in our mind and we get stuck in there and we are looping and then it's hard to find the exit. So again, these two go together. It's healing, but healing it's not just for the sake of healing itself. It's like, what's the point to heal your broken legs if you are not going to use them later on to run and dance and travel and do whatever you want to do in your life. So healing is kind of a prerequisite, but then the ultimate purpose is becoming more and more the most we are meant to become, fulfilling that potential in every way that resonates with us in different stages in our lives. So um, I have a group program that I'm offering a few times a year. It's called Healing and Flourishing. Healing and Flourishing with EMDR. EMDR is a particular therapy, very powerful therapy that I'm using, and it's a very powerful tool to make this healing and transformation happen. So again, they are connected. We want to improve. There is an innate need, deep need for growth, for flourishing, for meeting our highest potential, just like a plant, like a flower, a tree that you see it growing naturally towards the light, towards the sky, and cannot help it, no matter the conditions, no matter how frustrating the external conditions might be. But that resilience and that deep need to become, if you want, the butterfly from the stage of the caterpillar that sometimes we are stuck in for a long time, to finally burst free into the most that we can be. And this is a very precious, very sacred process, and it's a process of art itself. We are becoming, if we allow it to, we are becoming more and more of the piece of art that we are meant to be polished into.
Beautifully said. Um, I just wanted to note, like, wow, 30 years of experience is amazing, and it leads perfectly into the first topic that I have set up for us, as well as the other point you just made there. Just as a quick note here, at when we're nearing the end of this interview, if there are any remaining topics that I have, because I do have a lot that haven't been covered yet. I'm going to just start doing like a quick fire just to get some quick answers, just so that everything can be covered. Just because I have so many things here that I'm very I would really love to hear Sophia's takes on. So again, based on what you just said, because I know there's this conception that I think a lot that exists out there. I myself have a, a bachelor's in psychology, so I am more personally aware or informed about the psychological process and somewhat in therapy. Some people I think have the misconception that therapy is only for someone who has like a somewhat, we can say, severe, not severe, but some kind of mental disorder that is not common to most people, in the sense that therapy is not really for most people, which I believe is just personally fundamentally wrong, just because it's not therapy. Yes, it is certainly for people who are struggling with, any type of mental disorder or certain mental disorders, maybe in some cases more severe than others. But at the end of the day, even if someone doesn't have a mental disorder or anything like that, therapy is such a great opportunity to learn more about yourself, especially how you mentioned that, you're digging into the past, something that I think very few people end up doing, and it can cause these road bumps or blockages for people's inner growths, and unless it gets addressed at all, it's not going to happen. That might not even be related to any, you know, disorder like depression, anxiety, or anything, but it's just something that has to be looked into and analyzed and treated. And so to me, I actually I can't see therapy not being a benefit for anyone really out there. I think it's just a positive thing to have if people have the opportunity to take it. Now, I also wanted to mention here that to me, therapists are amazing for self-improvement. In fact, I think, therapy at its core is self-improvement, but, therapists see someone in their ups and downs and how they change over time, especially if you have multiple sessions. And, at the end of the day, people are just trying to get in a better place through therapy. They're at one place, they're trying to get to another place. And I don't know how that isn't just, someone trying to improve themselves. Self-improvement is a very broad category. It could obviously touch a lot of things, but at the end of the day, someone's trying to get better. And I find that therapists, which is great, it's one of the few professions where you are able to get very intimate with other people, in the sense that you get to really see them in their very vulnerable stages, in their unfiltered, raw stages. That I mean, obviously it depends on the client and how willing they are to open, but you get to really see like ups and downs and how someone has changed, what has caused changes, what has caused not just positive but negative changes. You're able to learn so much about people, and just the idea of doing that for so many years, decades, it tells me that you're someone who has very I don't know, the not many people have what you have, in a sense, for being able to witness this and learn so much about, human beings that are trying to do something to improve themselves and their lives. So I think this is one of the most relevant kind of sources I can get for the what this channel is all about. So I really, again, really appreciate it. I think, just if anyone's wondering, why a therapist, why this, I mean, it's, to me, it's the most relevant person I could be interviewing, not just, obviously I have my own journey and my own, the things that I do speak myself with Sophia. This channel is going to be more, this interview is going to be more uh, uh, sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Sometimes I get caught on my words here. It's going to be more just targeted towards applying to more people, right? Everyone, because in therapy, someone might have a certain mental disorder, they have their own unique story or something like that. We're going to be focusing more on things that can apply to most people, and I think you'll find that that is going to be the case, right? If anyone has any misconceptions, I think, about what therapy is about. So what are your opinions in general about, how therapy just relates to self-improvement?
Oh, it's it all leads in that direction. So you are right that there is this old perception, and it's old, it's really old, that you know what, you only go to therapy if there is something terribly wrong with you, and if you are dealing with mental illness, like a severe mental illness, this is really the old misconception. Nowadays, I have to say that the new generation doesn't view it in that way anymore. I actually saw t-shirt inscription in a store saying that therapy is so cool. So therapy nowadays, it's not about only, of course, if like when you go to a doctor and you have some severe conditions, you address them. There is no point in suffering more for something that could be addressed, could be treatable. Like it's against our survival instincts. But therapy, it's a process that goes way beyond that. And I really believe that nowadays people know it. Ultimately, sometimes it just comes down to affordability and being able to afford it. But people who go to therapy, they actually are people with higher degree of awareness and self-honesty and being willing to take charge of their own life rather than being in the victim's mode where everybody, it's kind of there and I'm suffering because of others and I'm waiting for others to change so I can be better. But in this way, I'm putting my power away in the hands of circumstances and others, and I'm allowing myself to be a victim and suffer without taking the courage and the self-honesty to say, you know what, this is my life. I live it my way and I make the most of it. This is my personal motto. So when we accept to take our own healing, our own growth, our own improvement, our own life and destiny in our own hands, and we say, okay, this is me and myself. And it's like being in a picture sometimes where you are in the middle of the picture, but you can't really be in the picture and outside the picture. And you need to be able to see the picture as well. So you can change the picture, you can become and be more and more of what you want. I also go to therapy when I need it, because as much as I have all my expertise and I've been helping thousands of people by now, when it's about me being in the picture, I know that my view is limited to my positioning. So it's very helpful to be able to have, and this is ultimately what a therapist does, the role of a therapist is to be the witness, the presence that opens up and holds this space as wide and the space of unconditional, love and regard and acceptance of what is. So the person can just be in there, be raw, be open, be where they are, what they are fully. And this is actually the magical space of transformation, because transformation and change and self-improvement cannot come from the outside. If there is one of your questions was what's one thing that I learned personally, professionally in my whole work, and this one big thing that I learned is that we cannot change anybody outside of ourselves. It's impossible. The more we try to do that, the more we engage these forces, and naturally the tendency is for self-preservation and defense. And the more we put these forces, we force the other person into the other direction, right? So we cannot change others, even with the best intentions. It's a different domain. It's like a different country where we cannot just go in. It's like entering somebody's house and trying to make renovations and changes in there. It's first of all, it's very disrespectful, and it's a violation. It's a violation. And the result, even with the best intention, the result is the person will eventually want to push out of their house, because it's their inner house. So the only place where we do have power and we can transform, and it's not change when it comes down to us and ourselves, and it always comes down to that, me and myself. It's hard. We are confronted with everything that is there, all of that old furniture and clutter that is in our inner house, and we can easily feel overwhelmed and but it's the only place where we have power, is the only place where we can make changes, right? So we cannot change others. We only have power over what in our inner house, our own inner domain. But the beauty is that when we take charge, and yes, accepting the help of another, accepting therapy is like accepting a coach in a different area, accepting to go to university to learn something. So it's a sign of first of all, humility in a way, to know that we cannot at all, we cannot, but it's helpful to open up and have different perspectives, although it's not the therapist that does that. Again, the role of the therapist is to hold this sacred space, that you feel it as a therapist, you feel it with your presence, and the presence has to come from the right place. And the right place, funny enough, it's not a place of wanting to change the other person. It's not wanting to fix them. It's no, it's a very humble, respectful place for them to be where they are, what they are, and from there to open up more and more, to becoming more of what they are already. So this is again therapy, and nowadays there is, I have to say that lots of people, young and old, all generation, there is this great, beautiful opening for breaking the old patterns, breaking those virus programs that were built in our mind, breaking free and taking the ownership, this empowerment, taking the ownership. This is my life, this is my inner house, this is me, and I'm claiming that. And whatever training I need to get, whatever support I need to take, whatever crutches sometimes I need to have, I'm going to stop running the marathon of life with wounded feet, and feeling hurt, and feeling, beating myself up for me not reaching the end of the marathon, and struggling through this. No, I'm here, I have my life marathon in front of me, but I'm going to give myself the chance not only to run it, but to enjoy it, to make the most of it, to challenge myself and to heal myself. So if my feet are wounded for different reasons, they have been, I've never met a person in my life, personally or professionally, that hasn't been wounded. Unfortunately, this is the reality of living in the world, of our humanity. We are wounded, we wound others because of our wounds, and this perpetual spiral that seems like it's never ending, it can end, it can stop with us. And this is the place. This is truly, there is that Romanian a joke with Bula, the funny character in the Romanian jokes. And Bula was searching for the key, and then feeling so frustrated. And then his friend comes over and it's like, oh, well, I'm searching for the key and I can't find it. It's like, okay, don't worry, I can help you. Then let's search together. Did you lose it here? No, I didn't lose it here. I lost it in the house, but that's where the light is. So so we are all Bula in one way or another, where we keep searching outside, we keep hoping that our saving will come from the outside, that if only if others will change, only if circumstances will change, only, I personally call all of this people outside of me, circumstances, situations, I call them all the weather. And yes, this is the second big thing that I learned in my life and in my profession. And I actually learned it from my son when he was only 7 years old. And one winter morning, when I was trying to convince him that it's such a bad weather outside, and he has to be careful. And he turned to me and he's like, Mom, there's no such a thing as bad weather, just inappropriate clothing. What? Struggling with this. And I come back to that learning again and again, that yes, the weather, it is what it is. Others are, they cannot help it but being what they are. It is what it is. Circumstances are the way it is. So me fighting it, me struggling, me putting my power away in the hands of weather and say, unless you are what I want you to be right here, right now, I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to suffer, and here I am. I'm going to suffer for the rest of my life until you change, until you get straight. That's it. So I learned that I'm left to suffer at a huge degree of unnecessary suffering. I'm conditioning myself towards suffering when the weather is going to be what it is anyway. Others cannot help it, truly. They cannot help it but be what they are at that moment. I cannot help it but be what I am at the moment. So the more I come, first of all, to accepting this. And there is this wonderful psychologist. There was Carl Rogers, the father of humanistic psychotherapy, of client-centered psychotherapy, and he said it so beautifully that the paradox is that only when I fully came to accept myself, I start to change. And I think this is the key to self-improvement. Again, one of your questions was if it's worth wanting, how important is this desire for
Yeah, I was
self-improvement?
about to get to that, but yeah, go ahead.
Find out the questions, and
That's
I
okay.
have my mind, so I
Of
guess
course,
this.
go for it.
So of course it's wonderful to want to self-improve, improve, but we have to be very aware of the place where it's coming from, this desire inside. If it's coming from the place of I'm not enough, I will never be enough, and I have to make myself be just right, it's a place of self-violation. It's a place of entering our own inner house with force, with demands, with violence. And in that place, from this place, we cannot go very far, because again, the natural tendency is for self-protection. Everybody, including ourselves, when we try to enter our own inner house with muddy feet and force and say, you do this and get straight, the reaction is defense. It's pushing away. It's every force activates a counter force. It's like, no, no. And even if I will do what you tell me at the moment because you force me and I have to respond to this first, in the long run, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to myself, and I will protect myself from you in the future, even when that you is ourselves, right? So on the other hand, we are afraid, we have this misconception that if I don't force myself, if I don't push myself, if I don't make myself improve, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be this lazy bum on the couch and waste my life and do nothing of it. And that's absolutely not true. If we, it's springtime now, if we go outside even a little bit and we look at the spring flowers and blooming trees, and they're not forcing themselves to bloom. Nobody's forcing them, quite the opposite. If you force them, if they start blooming and the I don't know, winter weather returns, and it's affecting them, it's preventing them from naturally blooming, and yet they still, the next sunny day, they still continue the blooming because they cannot help it. So just like we were saying about the misconception with therapy, or the misconception that to therapy only sick, mentally ill people go to therapy, this is another misconception about ourselves, that if I don't beat myself up, make myself to improve, I'm not going to bloom. I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to bring to life those fruits that naturally, if we allow ourselves to grow and bloom from our own seed, from what we are already, if we just nurture this instead of making ourselves being it, then it's happening. All we need to do is to nurture our potential. So again, the place where we are coming from in this desire for self-improvement, it's essential. We have to pause, no matter where we are in this process, we have to pause and say, okay, what's the place inside? Where is this coming from? Is it the old parenting style where I learned that I cannot rest, I cannot be unless I'm being good, I'm doing the right thing, I'm doing, and this is again, it's like being on a treadmill for the rest of our life, and paddling and paddling and rushing and increasing the speed and getting nowhere. And in the meantime, while we are on this never ending, never speedy enough treadmill, there is life outside of us. There is life, raw spring, that it is the way it is. And we can step out of the treadmill and join the flow of life that it's taking us to change. It's taking us naturally to transformation. It's bringing us, just like nature facilitates and nourishes everything for a flower to meet its full potential, to grow, to bloom, to follow, to pursue all its natural stages that are just perfectly aligned with life. And life itself is there to support this process, to enhance it, to facilitate it, to give it even the challenges. The challenges, like you know, when I see a beautiful little flower growing up out of a crack in the cement. It's the most beautiful thing I can see. It's like, wow, it's a crack in the cement. And this gentle, fragile little purple flower is growing there. This is nature. This is the true way. And if only we can align ourselves with it rather than constantly making it our own way. And this making it, we cause ourselves so much suffering. Unnecessary self-beating suffering, never enough, that it's just a repetition to the next level of the old programming that we are trying to set ourselves free from it. We are defying our past, we are defying the parenting style that we had, and we want to be free, just to step into this new space where it's not somebody else that is beating me up anymore. I am doing it, and nobody can do it better than I. Nobody can abuse me more than I abuse myself. That's not freedom.
Wow.
It's suffering.
Yeah, no, I mean, so many good points I feel that you covered there. If I could try to just wrap around or summarize that a little bit, I just, obviously the idea of things from the past that can be affecting us, that are these blockages from stopping us from becoming who we should be today. But the biggest one that I noticed, especially with the question I was going to ask, right, which is how important is having the desire to self-improve? And you interestingly, you brought something very, very important about the way that question is phrased, which is, initially it's like, how important is having the desire to improve? Well, it kind of first of all begins with what where that desire is coming from, what kind of desire it is. Because initially I was, my personal conception that I was having was, well, initially, yeah, I do think it's pretty important to acknowledge that you do want to change for the better. You do want to make positive changes, but why do you want to make those changes? Where is it coming from? Because if you're like, and the way that you articulated yourself in saying that, it's so many people try to force it, right? They're forcing, I want to become this, I want to change this. Well, I mean, if your goal of self-improvement is to become, you already have an idea. It's fine to have some idea or some notion, but try to recognize where that's coming from. Is that something that is actually you, or is it being influenced by other people or society, and it's not actually something that you really are, right? How bad would it be for you to have this big desire about, I want to become X or whatever it is, but that's not even part of your nature or who you are. And that's not supposed to be bad. I mean, let's say for some reason you wanted to be, I want to be a famous actor. I don't know, some people like celebrities. Let's say that's it. It's not to say that, there's something wrong with you for not for that not being to your nature, but like how bad would it be if you just have this idea for whatever reason that I need to be this thing, you're working so hard to it, and you're just who you are is not fit for that. And it's so bad because like you mentioned, you're punishing yourself because every time that you're gonna come into these issues of resistance, right? Because your body's not going to be, yourself is not going to be aligned with that. Things are going to work out the right way, and you're going to keep beating yourself up for it and thinking, no, I'm not trying hard enough. I need to exert my will more over this. And I think a lot of people probably who are interested in self improvement probably get into this trap where, um, they think, yeah, I could be anything. I can, all I have to do is just try hard enough. And I personally noticed that, from being that person who's like, I'm just gonna put myself with the strictest standards because I know I could do it, and I'm just gonna do it. Has always ended up with me in me getting in a worse place because I'm just trying to do so many things, as opposed to, firstly, for me and myself, just trying to take it more gradually as opposed to very quickly trying to change myself, or improve myself, but also just to be more aligned with who I am, right? And that's one of the things, my channel's all about things that can apply to everybody. My life is going to be unique to everyone else's life. But at the end of the day, when I say something like I'm trying to align with myself and what I want, that's something that everyone can apply, right? So very important point there in regards to this because again, a lot of people, you know, some people, I think, whoever, some people might be watching this, where they are in terms of self improvement, I think a lot of people, and this applies to other things, but self improvement to me is the most core or general thing of them all. Is you might be on the beginning, on like, I kind of want to change myself. You're at the precipice. You're peaking. You're curious. You're like, where do I begin? Where I do all of these things, and there's there's definitely a desire in you to want to change yourself for the better, but definitely analyze, why is that coming from, where is it coming from, and question yourself of how much of that is actually what is natural to me and what I really want, as opposed to it being from somebody else, right? Because if you just go from someone else or what someone else wants, you could be going in the completely opposite direction. um Another quick point that you made, what was it? Oh yes, yeah. Again, pretty much what I just said there. But we only have control over our lives, not other people's lives. So if you're in a situation where you're just committed to change, some people, you're whoever you're in, a significant other might be, or your family that you are around. You're like, I need to change this about them. And I think that, that's just, it's not in the cards. It's not something that you can really do. And like Sophia said, I think that if you try to do those things, you're going to end up getting in a worse place. You're going to try to force it. You can't actually properly change someone. And it's like you said, it's a violation if you try to really change somebody else. And so the key is to really stick to ourselves and be rooted in ourselves. And that's again what this whole, I don't know, mantra, or what do you want to call it, that self-improvement really is. So, but really terrific stuff. I think each and every point of those could have been like really broken down. And just to
But
kind of
in fact,
go ahead, go for it.
I want to pause a little bit because you touched on such an essential point in there. So not only that we cannot change others, and the only place where we have complete power is within ourselves, but this self-improvement thing, sometimes it could become a very obsessive thing. Like we're constantly obsessed, and the society and the nature right now is like, okay, how much you are improvement and how committed you are to your improvement, then you improve that and that, and it's like a game, but it could become obsessive again, like a treadmill, being on a treadmill and increasing the speed, and it's never enough, and the point is just to keep increasing, and you don't get anywhere. Personally, to me, and it might sound strange, but after many years of the work with myself, because ultimately, again, I cannot, even in my work, I cannot change anybody, and it's not my point, but still, with everything that I know, ultimately it comes down to my own journey with my own self, and I've been always very committed to growing, improving, healing. That's the central point. But I reached the point in my life right now where I think self-improvement and change, self-change is really overrated. The direction that I'm seeing right now is from moving from all of this outside change, improvement. It almost like goes, you see it outside to my point is to come back more and more and more to myself, being more and more who I am already. Because otherwise, again, looking at nature, it's like I was born to be this peach tree, but I live with in the neighborhood of many other trees, and I want to be a plum tree, and I force myself to become a plum tree, and then I force myself to become an apple tree, and then I change course and I force myself to be another tree, and it's missing the whole point. It's like, yeah, maybe I can look like a plum tree. Maybe I can act like a plum tree. Maybe if I was born to be a dog, I can meow like a cat, trying to prove that I'm a cat because I have beautiful cats around. But it misses the whole point of life to me. My direction right now in terms of my self-improvement journey is how much I can return, I can remember, not change, not make myself to be, remember who I am in truth. And this remembering, the word itself is remembering. It's putting the members back together. It's from all of those parts that I've been split into, bringing them back home, putting them back together so I can be whole again. And the more I can be me, but me, the real me, the me that I entered this world to be before the world kicked in, before I learned all of these ways, before I learned to be a chameleon and be that and that just to please others, just to get what I need, just to be accepted, just to be loved, just to be appreciated and valued, and all of this that are human needs, yes, but I learned that I cannot meet them from others, from the outside. Just like I can only breathe from the inside. No matter how much others would breathe for me, it won't do it for me. It would just keep me existing, connected to machines that breathe for me, but I'm not alive. Just like drinking water, no matter how much somebody would drink water for me, I can only drink water. So really the source is here, and instead of spreading myself and this never enough, never ending journey of what it should be, what could be, what needs to be, what enough, it's, and again, Rogers also said, the psychologist said that I am not perfect, but I am enough. And that enoughness, that coming home where who am I, just as we were saying earlier, the place where this desire for self-improvement is, it's the return, the direction, it's right here, because ultimately we truly are all that we need to be. And just like a tree, that it could be just a tiny seed under the ground that you don't see it, you don't believe that it exists, that it's real, and it's there. And if you nourish it, if you allow it to grow, it could be a tiny little tree, and then a young tree, and then a full blown with beautiful flowers, beautiful fruits tree. But the tree at every point in this growth journey, it's perfect for what it is at this time, at this point in time. It's all that it needs to be, whether a tiny seed or a young tree or a full-grown tree. It's all, everything that it could be, it needs to be at that point, and it's more than enough.
I
More.
I totally it really like where you're talking about this is like just because I especially for my therapy background with you is so it's it's such a crucial step I think that everyone needs to get to. This is the point that you're talking about right now is, you know, it's not something that is very easy to just get to. It's not something that quickly gets to. I think everyone can get there, and it's not something that you can just, oh, once I'm there, I got it. It's a constant, you know, process where you might be shifting back and forth. But what you're talking about is, in my opinion, and really like some people, I don't know what someone's opinion listening to this is, but this point is really like such a groundbreaking point to self-improving and improving yourself. Like the getting to that point, a lot of people might be more practical oriented, like, oh, I got to do this and then this and then this, okay, this, all these steps, but really I'm all about the foundation and what's leading everything to coming up. So I really encourage all of you. I'll be talking about this by myself after this interview's done, but to possibly rewatch what Sophia just said here about truly accepting it. This was a really big point that I can't stress enough just because I've been the recipient of it myself. Okay, so we are already, as I expected, we were going to we could talk about this for so long. Let me see here. I there are a lot of points obviously here. I'm trying to think of one in particular if I could sneak one in. But in terms of because I think what in a way, what you just talked about, first of all, address what's the best way to begin improving yourself. I think first of all, it's acknowledging what you just said there. But in terms of like something that I think a lot about, it's this concept that I've talked about it in my videos before. It's the idea of present enjoyment versus long-term pleasure. And what I mean by this is just something where uh, people can get stuck in this idea that I really want my future to be good. I'm going to work really, really hard in my career or my life right now, and I'm going to make sacrifices right now because I'm going to end up having more money or do certain things that are going to go in the future. I remember I had a viewer who talked about this and was like, "Why are you, it kind of felt like I could just sense it in them that they were being very hard on themselves for how good in performance how good they can perform. But to me, my idea was that, I think that your current present enjoyment of life is also very important. Not just what are you setting up for in the future, but also for today. And I personally found that a balance between those two is very important. Where do you sit on this idea? Try to, if you could just be a little
That
quick.
constantly this dance between this dance and choosing, constantly choosing, as they say, and trading what we want the most for what we want now. And at the same time, again, with this delayed gratification or long-term gratification, and as they say, we reap what we sow. So on one hand, it's important to acknowledge and accept the process that once we sow the seeds, we need to be patient and to keep nurturing them, even when they are under the ground and we don't see them, and keep nurturing them. And it takes a while. We will see the fruits a few years from now if we keep taking care of it. And at the same time, there is this balance of stepping out of that treadmill where doing, never enough, and stepping into life and being with life. And while we are nurturing and planting the seeds in our inner garden and planting our orchard and taking care of it, we are being in life with everything that it is as it is right now, and we say yes, we accept the invitations to life. We don't block our windows and door our inner house and say, no, life, you cannot enter it until I'm making life here inside. I'm producing it, I'm creating it my way, I control it in every single way. Again, it defies the natural laws. We misalign with the natural laws, and it's like misaligning with the law of gravity. Of course, you are falling and then breaking your bones, and the more we do that, defying the law of gravity, it's a natural consequence. So on one hand, yes, giving ourselves the space to be where we are, planting, choosing the seeds that we want to have in our inner garden, in our inner orchard, and nurturing them, because we will see the results, we will reap the results a few years from now. And everything that we are reaping right now, where we are in our life, it is the result of the old habits of what we've been nurturing and growing for the past few years. At the same time, ultimately, again, instead of moving away from this obsessive need, it's a need of control, ultimately, of self control. It's like, my way or the highway. I'm defining life. I'm defining what I am. I no, it's my way. I'm making it. It's a stubbornness and obsession with that, but freeing the way, coming back to let me see who am I already that perhaps I'm neglecting, perhaps I'm killing who I am inside, stepping on it and expecting it to grow. It's like stepping on a seed and expecting it to grow no matter what, beautifully, higher, taller, never tall enough. And instead, like, okay, here I am. This is me. I will start nurturing with kindness. And in therapy, again, as a therapist, I have to say that beyond every modality, every technique, every approach, every knowing thing, the most powerful ingredient that fosters healing and transformation, growth, improvement is this unconditional acceptance of what is, of what we are, and love, love of what is, even those parts of ourselves, the so-called shadows of ourselves. They're like these children locked in the basement that we don't want to bring them to light, and we are ashamed of them. We don't want to look at them. Bringing, just unlocking the basement, bringing them to light, and feeding them, and washing them, and allowing them to grow. And this is the process. And when we go to therapy, there is another being, the presence of the therapist, that helps us, again, first of all, create this space that we don't offer to ourselves. We as human beings, we are self-abusive, we are self-harming in so many ways, and we self-torturing. So we don't give ourselves this unconditional, dropping every condition, dropping all the conditions that we learned and they're part of our inner province, dropping them, freeing the space to be. And again, the presence of the other, the therapist, or the very loving parent or friend, or another human being that can come from this place where no judgment, no force, no intention even to change one another, to modify, to improve. No. Free space to be. And then when we remove all of this, and this, finally you see the flower growing higher and higher, and the trajectory is vertical, it's towards the light. And that's what we are all naturally, even plants, naturally, we are aiming to. And this is, again, it's a very sacred space where the ingredient, the main ingredient, is that unconditional acceptance of what is, of what we are, and love of what is, and welcoming and saying yes, what is as is, and what we are at the core as we are.
So beautifully said, truly. And I always really appreciate your analogies that you use, with other things. I think visualizations are a beautiful way to think about things, especially on our own. So we've reached the end of our time. Honestly, I'm happy because even though there were still a lot of topics, we didn't get to do the quick fire, but I'm happy because I want things to be, properly explored as opposed to just a quick kind of answer. And maybe we could do it at another time. We could keep some of these and address those. And I think that would be for the best. So really, again, Sophia, I want to thank you so much for today because really, and I'm really happy at the way that this interview went. In my head, I was already just on what we were talking about. Let it be, do it. Don't try to force it. In my head, I was like, oh, I really hope we could get all these questions, and I hope that we can go all this. But like what you addressed was so important. And again, it's like at the end of the day, guys, this. What Sophia has been talking about to me is really the one of the most important things. If you don't get this part right, and I don't mean it in a sense of like trying to be critical about yourself, but if you are not able to look within yourself and accept who you are, anything that you do outside of that is just going to go against what you actually want. So it's pointless, in my opinion, or very very unfruitful for you to try to force all of these other things. Like, okay, you know what? Okay, Max said that I should be sleeping well. I should write my schedule. I should do this. I'm gonna do it. That's not the approach here. It's not like, yeah, I find things that work. I share those with everyone, but at the end of the day, you need to look within yourself, ask why it is that you want to change, what it is about yourself, where is it coming from, and accept that, right? Accept who you are, right? Accept that sign, and then you're able to start to make all of these positive changes that come along the way. So, very happy that you ended up really focusing on these points. I'm going to be rewatching this myself many times just to really, again, absorb it. Even though through our therapy, you've talked about a lot about these points already, but I can't stress enough how important this general point is. I'm so happy it was the main first and overall thing that you've brought up. So with that said, again, thank you so much. As we're concluding here, I'm wondering if you'd like, again, where can people find you if anyone's wanting to look at anything? I know you also have a book. Anything you'd like to finish on?
Yes, first of all, I thank you for this, Max. So this space together, and in a way, our interview today actually was a live example of what I was trying to say before. So we had our agenda, we had our questions, but then we were able in our interaction to while we had that, our making, our planning, our way, like to free the way and make room for life and for that flow of taking over and taking us to the places that by itself is taking us. And when we align with that, and we did beautifully together today, in a way, I feel that everything was kind of covered from even from the questions, but it went even beyond that, and in such a, again, flowing way that it flew organically, naturally, the beautiful, like, just like nature. Just so when we do this with ourselves, even with our self-improvement process, when we do it with life itself, sometimes all we need to do is to get out of the way, our way, and join, align ourselves with the way, with the flow of life. So thank you for today. And yes, so my practice is called Crossing Your Bridges, and there is the website. So Crossing Your Bridges, it's a metaphor for crossing the bridge from where we are right now to where we truly want to be. And my role as a therapist is to help people cross their own bridges and have the chance, have the courage. It takes courage to take this ownership of our own life, of our own well-being, and to say, okay, this is mine. I'm taking myself, whatever it takes. I will take myself where I want to be, where I will return to where I want to be. So there is my website, my name. Anybody who Googles on Google Sophia Barna, there is somehow a link to where I can be found. And yes, through the book, The Simple Way, it's called The Simple Way. It's a self-improvement, self-help book, actually, about how we can work with removing those emotional, mental barriers that we each gathered on our journey through life so far, to remove those blockages, to actually meet our full potential and bloom, keep blooming. It's spring here, so this word keeps coming again, just aligning ourselves with nature. So thank you for today. It's we could talk about this forever, and it's so engaging. And you are such a beautiful presence, Max. So thank you for this. I was excited before, and now I'm I'm very filled with joy out of our conversation. So thank you for it.
That makes me very happy to hear, and I couldn't be back the same here. Really, again, I always you always seem to surpass my expectations and how I thought things would go. And I'm going to be really reflecting on what you've said today and this overall conversation. So, again, thank you so much. Again, that was Crossing Your Bridges, Sophia Barna. I hope we might be able to set up and organize another meeting like this because I truly think there's so much that people can benefit from, and that's again one of the why my main thing about my channel, because even though it's kind of focused on the outside and everything appears to be about my life, my goal is to provide something real, raw, and practical and applicable to the lives of others, and I think that this is something that really helped.
Max, can you, so mine is Crossing Your Bridges. What's the name of your channel? So in case more people would want
Oh,
because hear it, can you also
yes,
just for
so it's just Path Walker. It's just one word, Path Walker. And if you just type either on YouTube Path Walker and maybe type daily vlog or improvement vlog or something along those lines, you should be able to find it just fine. But yes,
wonderful. Okay, so I guess that would be it for today. And yes, I
that's
would love to have this kind of conversations again in the future. And I try to say yes to all the invitations that life are bringing to me. So I try to have this approach where one invitation, when it's coming, before putting up my resistances or oh yes, or just yes, just opening the doors and the windows to my life to say yes to life. So this is part of my philosophy, and just like today, I would love to have this conversation again in the future.
awesome. Love it. Can't
Recording stopped.
can't wait for it to happen again. And yeah, I mean, I'm just, yeah, I'm so excited and I can't wait for it to really continue. And I'm happy to see that, again, you practice what you preach in a way with what you just said. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is going to be just a reflection on the interview. There were some points there that again I just wanted to reiterate and touch on, especially now that it's still fresh in my mind. I was thinking maybe I could do this a little bit later, but now it's just right. Um, Essentially, I'm. I don't know what maybe some people had, what expectations people had for this interview, or what like how he thought it was going to go, and but I'm so happy at the way that it went, and I just want to kind of explain why, in case anyone was like maybe they thought it was going to be a little bit different, because again people think that people may have had the conception that this was going to be, again, I do like giving practical advice, right? I do like really giving, this is what works, this is what I found that doesn't work for myself. But what Sophia talked about in that interview, I mean, she talked about multiple different things, namely, it's such the one that really caught me off guard in a way, especially because of the question I had was, again, I was going to say, how important is the desire to have self-improvement, right? I really want to just hear her take on that, because is it very important? Is it not that important? Which I thought she was just going to say was very important. She ended up saying again, why do you want to begin improving yourself? Where is that desire coming from? That is such a massive like point if you really think about it, that I haven't really touched in my videos. Um, like, it seems like it's obvious. We just want to improve ourselves. It seems like who doesn't want to improve themselves? But try to find why, because we all have an idea, and I've talked about this before. We have an idea of what our future looks like, and I'm not saying that that's wrong by any means. I'm sure most of the things that, generally when you think of what does my life going well look like in a year from now or 5 years from now or 3 years from now, what have you, we can come up with some ideas that fit and make sense, and it's good. But I also think that there could be some ideas that aren't good, right? That's not to say that there's necessarily something wrong, but it's very important for you to reflect personally and deeply about why it is that you want that. Is it just a feeling? Where does that come from? Look into it, dissect it more. Is it from what someone else has told you? Is it from what your parents have told you, your friend, a significant other? At the end of the day, you yourself are the person who should know yourself the best and are able to actually know what you need most and who you are, right? As opposed to someone else saying that. I personally, and I'm very fine sharing this. I had these ideas, especially in the romantic department of oh I want to be this more um I don't know, more macho guy who like maybe like just my tone and what I say and the things that I do are just centered as a lot more masculine in some way. And I was telling myself, no, I really want to be this way and whatnot. And just, that was something, and that's something that I talked to Sophia about. And at the end of the day, it's like it's not that there's anything like wrong with me, right? There's nothing that's like bad about me, and I just need to accept who I am, if that makes any sense. Another great point that Sophia brought up, and again, I think she beautifully illustrated why therapy and just the concept of therapy really applies to everybody. Um, but that therapy, her style especially, is going back to your roots. And I think that really connects again with the idea of where does the desire to improve yourself come from, and what does improvement or success and positive transformation look like for you? And some of those desires, because I just said, where do they come from? Some of them could come from some incidents that happened in the past when you were very young that have a negative effect on you still to this day that are influencing what it is that you really want. And then you end up not being what you actually should be. And so I guess the point is really analyze your past, look into that. And it's not to like try to trip you out or make you feel psyched out in any way. It's just about like trying to analyze like, hey, what happened in my past? Is there something I'm running away from? And if that is the case, if you can afford it, if it is available to you in some form, I would recommend therapy to try to dig into that with a trained professional who has done that before, so that you are able to confront that. Because if you have this blockage that's been sitting in you since you were a kid or who knows how many years, and that's always present with you. If you're trying to force again, or not even necessarily that you're forcing, but if you're trying to change without that being addressed, you're really handicapping yourself, giving yourself a handicap in a sense, and it's going to make it a lot harder and not able for you to properly naturally improve and grow and free yourself the way that Sophia kept talking about, like a flower that's blooming naturally. If you have this something that's rooted in the past, it's almost like it's choking that flower, not letting it properly bloom, and you're just still trying to bloom. And until you can release that so that you can bloom, it might not even be possible to. So very important, I think, again, big point, and it is obviously the more therapy related app, it as makes sense because, she is a therapist. Um, uh, Look into your past, look into the reasons for why you want to change yourself, look into what your desires are and what you want, and make sure that it's coming from you and from a place of love of yourself. I know I don't like cliches about the whole love yourself first and then, but it really is a true statement. Maybe you can phrase it into a different way if that works for you more, but you really need to be accepting of who you are and liking that, right? Because if you don't, then I just don't believe in this idea of faking it or trying to act in a way that you're not until you become that. I don't believe it. I don't believe you need to look within yourself. to be able to do this. Again, she talked about not having influence on others, right? Like, don't try to force like changes in other people to try to make your life better. Again, look more towards yourself. And the other really big one that she brought up was being natural and free with the way that things are going, right? Like, it's it's very easy to force yourself and be harsh on yourself and strict on things that you want to do or need to do, but there's an element of just letting things be, letting, like, trying to really align with the way the wind is going, right? Again, that she mentioned that analogy with the weather. You can't have an influence on the weather, so accept the way that things are going to be and do what you can, right? And not be so focused on, I have to control everything I can about myself. I feel like when you are able to be more free and open with what life has given you, what life is in this moment, and what's going on, that's when you're going to be able to be more um, just enjoy life more, first of all, but just go in the right direction towards positively transforming yourself. And I really can't stress enough, because I'm so happy, because there were some other points, like I had a question about, like, what's the importance of sleep, nutrition, and exercise, or schedules, or breaks, or these are more, they're great questions. They're great things to dig into. But if you're not coming at it, if you're not at the step where you are just accepting that you are who you are, and you're letting life, accepting life and the way that things are going to be going, focusing on those things is just small band-aid fixes, right? They're not really going to be able to address the big picture by themselves alone. You need to be yourself, accept that, and move from there. So that is, and honestly, and I said this in the interview, but this is a point that is not easy to achieve. It's not like you're just gonna, like, you hear these things and, like, suddenly, okay, no, now I accept myself. Now I understand the trauma from my past or whatever happened in my past, and I understand who I am, what I am now. I accept myself. I love myself. I do these things. You can't do that in, like, a day or whatever idea you have. I'm not saying you need a therapist for this. It'd be great if there's someone you can trust and you have really good trusting and loving relationship with them, a friend or a family member, that you can talk to, or just looking at it deep into yourself and thinking about it, but at least do something and work towards that. And that doesn't have to be like the first step. I'm not saying you can't work on a schedule or work on things in your life until you get past this point, but make that something that is a goal of yours, to look into yourself. And even for myself, that's something that I'm looking into, even though that is something that I've looked into already and I've come to big understandings of myself. You can kind of slip away from that. Sometimes you can get lost in the sauce. Something can happen, and then you're no longer focusing on you're starting to not like yourself anymore. And then suddenly, it all, again, you're not orienting yourself in the right way. This isn't like oh, once I get to this step, now it's done. It's like that's no, no. You need to constantly keep on evaluating yourself and making sure that you are in the right way. In fact, myself, this last week, if you've been watching these last few days, this last week, it hasn't been going well at all in a certain sense. And I started questioning myself, what's going on with my YouTube or my Twitch, and it's not taking off the way I want it to, and what's going on with my sleep and my abstinence and missing things, and what am I doing? Like, these are little thoughts and doubts that are coming into my head, and, like, what am I going to do, or what am I, they're not, it's not that big. But I'm just being unfiltered and honest with you guys. But my point being is that those things are clearly taking, or it's a step away from where being um, in tune with life, with your life and life in general should look like, right? It's okay. Let things be. Let it just don't just find that point where you're okay with yourself and not super criticizing, self-criticizing yourself in all of these different ways and having to change so much. I have to change this, but I have to change this about myself. Yes, there's positive transformation and positive changes. There's things that you want to, bad habits or negative behaviors that you want to change. But at the end of the day, you need to be okay with where you are right now, even today, wherever it is. I'm not saying be okay and just be like, okay, well, if I'm okay with myself now, then I'm okay, whatever. Let's say I'm an alcoholic. I'm okay being an alcoholic for the rest of my. That's not what I'm trying to say right now. I'm trying to say still be okay with who you are now, what has led up to who you are, and the more you can get close to that feeling, because it's not something that you can just get to, I think it's a more of a degree, kind of like a spectrum of how close you are to that, and it fluctuates. Um, the better you're going to be enjoying life and being able to, in my opinion, make positive changes in your life. So, really happy at the way that this interview went and the fact that those points were what the focus was, and again the first things that Sophia's brought to us. I really hope that I can have another session with her, another interview where we talk about, some of the other points I had or new points or revisiting some of the things that we had, because I really encourage you guys to listen to what she was saying. If it didn't really connect with you, maybe watch it again. Maybe, do some deep reflection on yourself, talk to others, or look at your past, look at how you assess your life and who you are, how you think about yourself. Have a sense of reflection, and then watch the video again. I really think this could positively change so many people who are stuck in ideas about themselves that are negative. And it's like this hate relationship. Like, I hate all these things about myself. I need to get rid of all these things. I need to add all of these things to myself. I need to purely change those. There is a sense of goodness to that because there's a party that wants to take initiative and change yourself, but that alone is definitely not going to be enough to change yourself. I've experienced that myself. I've already explained that only lasts a few days or a week at most, and then already your body's starting to come back to where you originally were. But like, just think about the idea that you like, I don't know, it's, oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm a little disoriented, just and passionate just talking about this, but like, thinking that you have all this control over yourself and not just, it's like you're choking yourself, really, is what it feels like, as opposed to letting yourself just breathe. So no, I do know, and I'm trying to act like I know everything, but I just mean I feel so good about that message, about not trying to force yourself and change yourself about like all these things and come from a place of hating who you are to change, and instead loving yourself. And once you love yourself and your flaws and everything about you, that's when you can more gently and easily introduce positive habits and positive changes towards moving in the right direction. Finding that love and acceptance of yourself, in my opinion, is a absolutely crucial step to really doing the self-improvement journey. So I'm really happy because this really was a point that I didn't really touch upon throughout all of my videos, and very, 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 very key point this was. So again, highly recommend. I'm gonna again rewatch this whole interview again, try to see if I can get any more points, because I think already, even though there were so many points we didn't touch upon, even the points that we did touch, that we did explore, could be dug into even deeper. So let me know what you guys think. Feel free. Again, I'm going to try to see if I could set up another interview. Let me know if you really liked it, if you want something like this again. If you have any feedback on something you'd like changed, maybe the question. If I can set up another interview with Sophia, I can ask one of your questions. So that would be like awesome to do. And I don't know, I loved it. I really enjoyed the process of doing this. It felt, I could do, I could, I kind of like makes me think I could do like a podcast kind of thing where I would be able to have guests and talk about these kind of things. I love it so much. Obviously, that would be something into the future if the cards can play out that way. But yeah, let me know what you thought. Um, and I'll see you tonight, I guess, with my with my daily video. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for everything. Thank you again, Sophia, for being there for this interview. And take care of yourselves and learn to, if you haven't, accept and love yourself. All right.